And just like that, the mics are hot. We have Shelby is on the line. Shelby, how are you, buddy?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Jesse? Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm doing pretty good. It's we were talking a little bit before the show. It is rainy, it is cloudy, and I went to reach for a K cup in my box of coffee, and there was none left. So I am like running on fumes, but I am happy, and it is a Monday. I'm still here, so I'm feeling pretty good. How's your day going?
Man, it's definitely a Monday. Woke up about 3:30 this morning, kind of tossed and turned, couldn't go back to sleep. Got to the office about 6 this morning,
Woo.
and it's just been a fun-filled day of working on computers and telephones and everything else. So
So what do you daylight as? What's your day job?
my day job, I'm the network IT specialist for a international security company. I take care of all of North Texas, West Texas, and New Mexico,
Mhm.
including El Paso for now. And I'm also the quality assurance specialist, I guess you could call me, for the same area.
That's awesome. So I actually, I'm a computer scientist. So I write code and do all that kind of fun stuff. So I understand the daily frustrations of technology. When it works, it's great, and when it doesn't, it is not so good. So I
Yeah,
understand that
definitely.
for sure.
We just made a big shift from Ignite to SharePoint, and you can imagine the headache that I've had there.
Ooh. Now, see, we're on the flip side of that. We're going away from SharePoint to just hosting all of our own stuff because it's like SharePoint does just enough for you that when you get
Hmm.
into like the developer side, it's like I need just a little bit more. So
Yeah,
we're actually phasing out SharePoint. So that's a daily conversation in some of my meetings. That's pretty funny.
it's daily here as well. So yeah, I understand the struggle.
Yeah. Well, so just like we mentioned earlier, I don't know you. I don't really am not 100% familiar with who you are, what you do, what you've done. So if you don't mind, I mean, give me the short and sweet of who are you, Shelby?
Okay. Well, obviously, excuse me, I'm Shelby Scott StClaire. I started off off-roading when I was probably 14, 15 years old, just like everybody else. I had a Jeep and I'd go find trails behind, somebody's property at the deer woods, etc. And that was kind of my bug to the off-road world. And I really got out of it for the most part when I got married the first time, because my first wife was not into any kind of off-roading. She didn't like bugs or mud or dirt or anything. So I kind of let it slide. And then I got more into like fishing and hunting, etc. And then I got remarried back in '09, and my wife really wanted a Jeep. So I go all out if I'm going to do anything. So I built her a Jeep.
Yeah.
And we started riding up at Hot Springs back around 2012. And it just, the bug kind of hit. We went to a few races, and I said, "Hey, I want to build a tube chassis buggy." So we started building a buggy, and it turned from a 4/5 seater on Rockwells to a full on tube chassis race rig.
Hmm.
And that was known as Voodoo Child, which is now owned by a guy up in North Carolina named Justin Wills. I raced it for a full season, and race one of 2020. Of course, 2020 has just been horrible, so I'm just going to chalk it up to that. Race one, Sean Cross. It was over at Hawk Pride in Tuscumbia, Alabama. Sean Cross needed help getting his rig to the race, so I was like, "Yeah, sure, man. I'll drag the open trailer. I'll put your buggy on the back. I'll run by and pick it up." Well, the way there, it was, I don't know, probably 15 degrees, and
Mm.
obviously I didn't have enough antifreeze in the motor. It was just I guess primarily water, and it pushed all the freeze plugs out of the motor on the way to the race. So if
Yikes.
there is a possibility of braking on a trailer, it would be me. Uh,
Wow.
I broke every race in 2019 except one, and I had a blast, but I was miserable the whole time. And I got so mad after the freeze plug incident, I put it up for sale, and my wife didn't even know I put it up for sale. I lost a ton of money on it, and Justin Wills said, "Hey, I want to buy it." I said, "Okay, cool. It's yours. It's your headache now." And lo and behold, he really hadn't had many issues other than issues that he's created. So from there, I kind of went back to just helping out the race series.
Mhm.
They were looking for help, needed somebody that had a big mouth, and again, here I am standing with my hand up saying, "Hey, I can help with this."
Yeah.
And my wife ended up helping in the timing tent. And that's kind of where we got involved in the off-road racing side, not necessarily the racing side, but in the behind the scenes side, working for a series. I ran UTV and Big Bouncer all of 2019.
Mm-hmm. So have you, in your race, I'll call it race history, did you primarily stick to one race series, or did you dabble in all of the other race series?
My first ever race was back in I think it was 2017 Rush Anniversary Bash. And it was a rental rig that I ran that, do what now? Yeah, that was my first race, and I was as nervous as a long-tail cat in a room full of rocket chairs. And I got to the race, and Justin Wheels, man, had been teamed up for me to run his rig in that race, and he was going to run it as well. And it just so happened that I drew first. And, I took off up the hill. The motor was spitting and sputtering. I was like, well, this ain't good. And it ended up dying and rolling back, and I rolled over, and I was like, okay, yep, I'm done. I kind of threw my hands up like, I'm done. I'm alive. The buggy's okay-ish. So let's go ahead and call it a day, because I didn't want to tear it up for Justin, because he still had to make his runs. So that was my first race. And then I got my buggy done, Voodoo Child, and ended up building an RS1. Yes, I'm one of those idiots that decided to, rock bounce at RS1. So I ran the first Southern Rock Racing race at Bridgeport, Texas, because it's real close to the house.
Yeah.
Back in February of 2019, and I had a pretty good run going in the RS1. Ended up taking a bad bounce. Ended up with my right rear trailing arm on a huge rock, and as soon as I went to go take off again, it just kind of flopped me over on my side. So that was the end of that day, because it was my second pass, I believe. And then I ran the entire Outlaw season in 2019.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So I owned an RS1 for a short period of time, and they're really fun cars. Like, they are super nimble. It's so weird to compare them to a 2-seat or a 4-seat machine. The steering is just completely different. It really goes where you want it to at a really high rate of speed, which is super cool. It just drives different. It's a lot of fun. It's a different perspective being smack in the middle of the car. So it's cool. I think it's cool. And Bridgeport is a notoriously, especially their UTV course, that's rough. That is a
was
really rough course. Just a lot of scattered rock.
It was a really rough course, and I had actually, living here, I knew kind of what they were going to run, or at least I had a pretty good thought of what they were going to run. And I went down there 2 or 3 weekends before just to kind of pre-run, and it was late January, probably. It was cold. And I'm out there, just helmet, gloves, and Hans, and I'm pre-running this course, and I'm blasting. I said, man, I got this. I felt pretty confident about it. I had 2 or 3 tire failures that day, because that place is rough on tires.
Yeah.
And of course we get into race mode, and I'm not going to say I was dead last on the first hill, but I wasn't fastest, obviously. I mean, it's hard to compete against Timmy Cameron and Brandon Davis and Paul Wolf and those guys.
You're pretty good.
I'm a new guy, right? I'm just showing up to have fun. Never thought I would win, never had any inclination I was going to win. I just wanted to go out and have fun. Plus, it was 30 minutes from the house. So, I had a blast out there doing it. And again, it's 30 minutes from the house. So anytime there's something at that park, I'm loading up in the truck and I'm headed that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's how Adventure Off-Road Park is for me. It's about an hour and 15 on a good day. So it's not too far, but yeah, anytime Adventure Off-Road Park has any kind of event, doesn't matter what it is, I'll probably be there. Now, for those who listen to the show regularly, I will not be at the New Year's Eve event, because my wife is due 3 weeks after that. Our baby is enormous, so he's probably going to come early. And I just don't want to be away from her. So I'll see you at the next event. But let's talk about the events that have transpired in the past couple months, because obviously that's the hot topics. And I want to tell the listeners the same thing I told you. Your crew has been on a couple of different media outlets, and you guys have talked a lot about some of the things regarding the race series, how to sign up, and things like that. And I'd like to cover all that stuff, all the general topics at the end, so everyone can get a refresher on how to sign up, where to sign up, entry fees, stuff like that, the basics.
Okay.
But I want to do one brush like one broad sweep here, and just kind of go over it for people who may not know the story from beginning to end. And I consider myself one of those people because, I, like everybody else on social media one day, just saw this change happen. So, can you give me a little bit of insight in terms of how Point One kind of came to fruition, and then what rumbled it to say, okay, well, we're gonna start something new over here.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So without mentioning the name of the series that we were all with, Kevin Taylor, which is the series president of Point1 Off Road Racing, Heath Day, which is our course wizard. I mean, the guys, you need to get him on the show first off, if you can convince him to. But he's our course wizard. He's in charge of safety. He's kind of the go-to guy, right? He's the everything. His wife, Carrie Day, she's just awesome with the merchandise and working with the spectators and the fans and the racers and slinging merch all day. Myself, obviously, I'm on the microphone. I handle 90% of the social media side of things with Kevin, and then Ian Boyce also handles our website design. He handles some social media when he gets a chance to. Hey, I hear the dogs. So Ian's a new team member for 2021. His wife, Catherine, she is the assistant race hill manager. She will be working with my wife, Amy, in the timing tent. So without Amy saying, okay, Ian, you can send them, nothing's going to happen. So Ian's going to be running our starting line. So he's the one that's in charge of saying, okay, you guys can go. And when I say you guys, we run 2 different cars at the same time on 2 separate timed hills. We're unlike any other series. Kevin and Heath Day came up with this about 3 years ago, and it's really been a hit with the drivers because mentally you're racing that guy next to you, but physically you're just racing the clock, right? So that's kind of what makes us different from other series. And then you've got Jan Collins, who is in charge of recovery. He drives this big buggy all over the hill, and he flipped the guys back over with Heath's help as well. And then Jerry Foley, everybody knows Jerry, right? I mean, he's our little cat herder, if you will, where he's down there in the staging area getting all these drivers staged. I mean, it's hard enough to do it with just one driver, but imagine trying to get 2 drivers to the line with 2 more drivers lined up behind that and 2 more drivers behind that. I mean, it's a full-time job, and I do not envy Jerry for that job that he has. But I mean, that's
I have to agree
essentially our crew.
So I went to a race at Blue Holler kind of after the off season here, and that was something that I was like I guess I had never been close enough to like the starting line to kind of see how the what's the phrase how the sausage gets made. There wasn't a whole lot of like order to that race, but it was still very cool, very very great. But people were scrambling to get whoever was next, and some people actually got to run twice, and yada yada yada. It was a really interesting scenario, and it kind of painted a picture for me that order and planning on that side is so important to the final product, because I've the big internet debate, right, is course choice is do you want to do bounty hills, or do you want to do a more short course style with a hill incorporated? And I personally, like, you hear the bounty people or the anti-bounty people always say, well, it takes too long for recovery and in between drivers. And personally, I was, they had a huge bounty hill. The recovery wasn't that big of a deal. It can be, but the thing that it took the most amount of time, and something that I personally saw that could be more efficient in that particular race, was making sure everybody was in order, lined up, ready to go, ready to rip. The order was clear. Everybody knew what was going on. It was this really weird communication flaw. And I think that is so overlooked from the fan perspective, where, just the organization that you guys do in pre-planning and things like that, just getting everybody in line. That's just crazy how that's so effective.
Yeah, that's huge with us. And we actually, during our drivers meeting, we will do our driver shuffle live. So we have a super duper spreadsheet that Kevin created, and he has all the drivers' names listed, 1 through 40, say. And he'll randomly ask, one of the drivers, hey, give me a number 1 to 5. They'll give him a number. He'll shuffle the list that many times. That's your running order for the big bouncers. And then he'll do it again for the side-by-side class. And then what we actually have is little aluminum triangles, if you will, or squares that you'll tie wrap to your car. And then you're going to stick a number that we give you on your car. So whether it be 1 or 3 or 14, whatever, that's the number on your car. That's your running order. So we can easily tell from the front or the back of your car where you are at in line. And it's helpful because we'll run, just say evens on the blue lane and odds on the yellow lane. So it's easy to know, okay, you're this number, you need to be in this lane now. So that's really streamlined our process, and I think we're going to streamline it a little bit more for 2021, where these drivers love them all to death, but they don't listen all the time. So we just have a white sticker with black numbers. We think we're going to make the UTV numbers different from the bouncer class number. That way they can easily distinguish, hey, this is my number.
Gotcha.
Right. You may have a 1 in bouncer, say you're Timmy Cameron. You may have a 1 in bouncer and a 13 in the side-by-side class. So he'll grab a 1 from the UTV table and a 13 from the side-by-side class and know that it needs to go on each particular car. So we're doing that. Hopefully it'll streamline the process a little bit more. Something else we're going to be doing for 2021 is we have a 65-inch TV that we're going to put in the staging area. And it's going to do 2 purposes. One, it's going to let the drivers know what their times are currently on that hill. The second thing is going to let them know that, hey, I'm up in 3 cars or 3 more passes, I'm going to be going. So it'll really help streamline the process and move things along. And then we also live stream. And when I say live stream, I'm going to put air quotes around that. We live stream our times at the race hill for the spectators. So the spectators or the family of the racers can log into our Wi-Fi and see where their husband or boyfriend is in relation to, hey, how far behind Timmy is he, or how far ahead of Ryan Boyd is he, etc. So we try to do that for full transparency and let everybody know, hey, we're not changing times. You guys, what y'all see is what we're entering into the computer. And then we have the 2 big timer display boards that actually show the time up as the driver finishes the course.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea because it becomes a scoreboard, right? So you can sit in the staging area and you have a scoreboard. It seems the answer that you just gave me there is so simple, but yet so effective. I'm a big fan. That's some well thought out. Sounds like it comes from experience type of idea. So I dig that. That's really great.
Thank you. Yeah, it's taken us a while to get here, and we kind of had the idea last year, just wasn't able to implement with the big TV in the staging area. And of course, this is going to be weather permitting. If it's pouring down rain, we're not going to put a 65-inch TV out there, but we're going to try and adapt and overcome if we can.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you guys are your own flavor of off-road racing. There's not any organization that does it like you guys, but with the recent fracture into a new race league, did you guys ever at any point think to yourself, hey, I want to say this. Did you ever think that, or have the inclination to reach out to another race organization or an already existing organization and say, would there be room for a partnership here or something like that? Or was the idea, right from the get-go, a brand new thing?
It was pretty much right from the get-go, just a brand new thing. We're going to do our thing. We're going to run our hills. We're going to run our courses. As we know, the drivers do race multiple series, right? And we encourage them to race multiple series. We don't call them our drivers, right? Because they're drivers, and they just want to race and they just want to compete. That's all they want. So all we're trying to do is give them another avenue and give them back the avenue that they had before the split with just a different name, but it's got the same face as everybody knows.
Gotcha. And that's really the vibe that I've got from all the other interviews and things like that is, I think that the family atmosphere is something that you guys again and again have reiterated. And I've gotten that from drivers that I've interviewed, every single time. That's something that they bring up about racing with you guys is the atmosphere. They couldn't put their finger on it, but they feel it when they get there, if that makes sense. So
right.
I think that's really unique. And I wanted to ask, what are you guys doing as the management to cultivate that kind of community?
It's hard to say that there's one particular thing that we're doing other than transparency, right? I mean, we are as transparent as we can get as far as from when drivers register, what the registration cost is going to be, what our payouts are. Our payouts are actually cash on the spot. I remember this past season, I had a conversation with Cheryl Davis. She said, "Hey, what are y'all's payouts?" And I just rambled them off. I said, "I think it's this," off the top of my head. I was in race mode. And she said, "Well, how do y'all pay?" I said, "Well, what do you mean? We give you cash today." And she just couldn't fathom that we were paying cash on the spot. So I guess what sets us apart is the transparency, and also that we do pay cash on the spot the day of the race, which I don't think any other series does that.
If you don't mind me asking, how do other series pay out? I'm unfamiliar. I'm not out there winning races. Let me tell you that.
Right. And neither was I. My understanding is with other series that they will mail you a check, the week after, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. They will just, put you a check in the mail. We're going to give you, cash so you can have gas money and get you some barbecue on Memphis on your way home. So.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. So I want to talk to you guys about some of the course design and things that you guys do, because when you guys go to a park, because of your tandem style racing, you can't necessarily run the same hill that other organizations run because it may not be set up to run two at a time or something like that. What would you say makes the perfect hill for your tandem style of racing?
Oh, that's a tough question there. If you've watched any of our races in the past, you'll know that we do have uphills and downhills. And 90% of the time, I'm not going to say every time, but 90% of the time, we're going to run some fresh cut hills that we cut ourselves. So when I say that, we're going to cut them, then that's Kevin Taylor, Heath Day, Kerry Day, Jan Collins, and now Ian Boyce. They all get there on Wednesday, and they start cutting the hills and laying them out on Thursday, sometimes Wednesday night. And they're cutting the hills on Thursday and even sometimes even Friday, and getting everything strung up. So there's a lot of downhill in our stuff, and if you look, a lot of guys are fast at the downhill stuff, and that's where a lot of the time is being made up, is in the downhill sections. Derek West is one of the fastest downhill racers you will ever see. He's starting to get some competition now, but I still think in my book, probably the top downhill racer that we've ever seen race. So yeah, really, I guess I'd say the downhills is what makes us different.
Yeah, and I think I think that style is bleeding over a little bit, but I do really enjoy watching your guys' race, especially the race footage, because it puts everything into semi-perspective. Because if I have a favorite driver, like Tim Cameron, for example, or if I have another favorite driver, we'll use Steven Rogers, and you get to see them race side by side, it really puts into perspective machines, how the machine handles the same hills, because you guys ultimately end up swapping the lanes, right? Isn't that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So you'll run you run the yellow lane first, you will come back and run the blue lane second.
Gotcha.
So each driver will hit both hills.
Yeah, so you get a direct comparison, basically, and it really starts to put everything into perspective. Whereas something like, a Crandon, where you see all the cars on the course at the exact same time, that's a little different than how it plays out where you got, or where we have like drag racing, where it's just one car at a time. I think it's very, very interesting what you guys have built, because again, there's nothing like it, and I think that it's really unique. Now, a question is, at what point does the hill become too difficult to do what you guys do on there? Is there any like defining factor?
Not really. If you really go back and look at some of our past races, we are typically going to set up a easy hill, and I'm going to put that in quotes, right? An easy hill and then a difficult hill. And the reason why is we want to be able to focus our recovery efforts on the more difficult hill. What we've learned, though, is that people see this easy hill over here and they end up overdriving the easy hill. Well, now all of our recovery efforts are over on the easy side. So we're not out there to destroy your rig. We're not racing bounty hills every race. We're just racing two good race hills, one that's a little bit harder than the other, or one that's maybe a little bit easier than the other, just so we can focus recovery efforts on one particular side. Like Hawk Pride this past year, it was the left lane. I can't remember what color it was. I think it was blue, but that was the easy lane. We ended up having more recovery on that lane than we did on the more difficult lane. I'm sorry, it was the right lane, the inside lane there. But we ended up having more recovery on the easy lane because drivers were over driving that hill. Kevin Taylor was one of them. He rolled his Porsche on that hill and almost tore up. If he had his hood on there, he would have torn up his brand new hood, and I would have been sick about that.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And he has a very unique build. But before we get away from it, I wanted to ask you, as the commentator for the sport, like for your organization, you're the voice, how do you approach a weekend? How do you prepare yourself to get in front of people, stay entertaining, and do all those different things? Do you have strategies to kind of build up conversational topics and so on?
Not really per se. I mean, I sent out last year, basically a driver interview question to each driver. And, it was more of, where are you from? Tell me a little bit about your rig. Who are some of your sponsors? And I know 90% of this information, but my favorite question in there was, what is one fact that people don't know about you? And Timmy Cameron was the favorite answer I've ever seen. And his was, he will never ride a roller coaster because he's not in control. And it just kind of hit me. I'm like, that's right. That makes perfect sense. He's not in control of what he's doing. He doesn't want to do it. So
that's very interesting.
That's kind of how I prepare. And then I love to clown on people. I mean, you can ask the Canadians, Nick Wright and Cody McQuillan and them boys up there. They're from Wisconsin, but I call them Canadians. I'll see something on social media a week or two before and be like, yep, I need to remember that for come race day. Johnny Gibbs, he's the king of the trees, right? He's always going to find a tree there can be a race course with one tree and he will find that tree. So I'm always just trying to find different information so I can clown on these different drivers and kind of get them riled up a little bit and get them excited about the day.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because I have been putting a lot of thought into how does rock racing as a sport do a couple of different things. And the first one I'm going to say is it's towards you directly rather than the race organization. So when you're the voice at an event, how do you carry yourself in a way that is more professional, or is it more casual? And what I mean by that is I had a short interview with one of the hosts from the Southern Rock Racing series, Hillside Live, and I mentioned to her, I was like, occasionally, if I'm just a fan who stumbled onto this event or live feed, and I hear someone in the background who's your announcer, saying things that maybe only would make sense if I was in the inner circle of the off-road world, it might turn me off to what's actually happening in the background. So are you conscious that you're, representing more than just yourself up there?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I know that I hate to say it, but I'm the kind of the face of Point1, right? I mean, I've been on the shows, I've done the podcast, I'm the microphone guy. So I'm the one that these fans see. And I have to think, when I kind of scan the crowd and I see these little 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old little boys and girls, I got to be very conscious of what I say, right? Because you say one wrong thing, one wrong phrase, and then you've got this Karen just hammering in your ear. And we're a family-friendly event. At least our series is a family-friendly series. We want them to bring their kids out, whether it's racers or spectators, because we know that kids are the future of the sport. I mean, look at Owen Garris up in Perryville, Missouri, and really these next two are going to be out of Perryville, Missouri as well. But you got Owen Garris, you have Jake Christensen Jr., and you have oh my gosh, she's going to kill me, Jay Stort's daughter, Jaden Storts. 3, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. They're the future of this sport. But what's coming up behind them? You have the 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. You don't want to rub these parents or the wrong way by saying the wrong thing. because I mean, again, we're a family-friendly environment. Yes, there's going to be alcohol involved as far as the spectators. We can't control what they bring, but we do not allow any of our family, and that's why I say that the crew, they we're not allowed to drink during race day. Now, after the race, yes, we can have a cold one. And same thing with our drivers. It's all about safety. We don't want them drinking. If we suspect that one of them is under the influence, you're pulled off the line. You're not racing today. So again, it's all about safety and making sure the kids and the families are having a good time at the race. So I really do have to watch what I say. I don't have the cleanest language in the world in just a normal conversation.
Sure.
But I have to catch myself just about every race from going off on somebody, especially when people start, pushing in on the boundaries. I kind of lost it at finals this past finals at Labor Day weekend at Mid-America Outdoors. It was the Bounty Hill, and these spectators just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And I finally just screamed on the microphone, "All right, we're just going to shut this down, folks." And I think I dropped a few F-bombs, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I feel, I apologize, but y'all getting under my skin now, so you need to back up." I'm very conscious about what I say. It's just sometimes in the heat of the moment, I will let something slip every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me say that I say that because, I think that rock racing, and again, for my regular listeners of the podcast, they'll hear me say it all the time, but I really think that we're in this pivotal spot where, we've got the attention of more than just the off-road community, and we're really starting to gain some traction. So I always like talking to people who are in the sport and people who are voices of the sport, and just say, how do you think your piece of the puzzle affects the future of our sport? And it's, with things like that, being mindful and things like that. So I always like getting people's take. But the next thing I really wanted to ask was, as you guys move forward, there was a very interesting idea that spawned an early I don't remember if it was this year. This year has just been one big blur for me. I believe it was early in 2020. There was a notion of a rock bouncing or rock racing national points series. And I believe Nick Kortenberg, I botched his name. Sorry. Yes. He had, just a list of points across all of the race series. Now, could that be an entity that is outside of, or we'll call it outside of Point1, but under the umbrella? Because I, as a fan, if somebody wants to log that data and just keep it out there, that's a really interesting statistic that I think could be, lucrative to have on hand.
Yeah, Nick really had something going there, and I'm not sure exactly what happened and why it failed. But obviously, with COVID, a lot of sponsors had to pull back sponsorship dollars, and we totally understand because nobody really knew where the entire world was going to go with the economy. Even my company, I mean, we're an international billion-dollar company, and even our CEO's like, "Oh, let's pump the brakes. Let's watch our spending." And we ended up, we did cut a lot of cost in different places, but we're getting back to normal. Even though we're probably in the height of the pandemic, we're getting back to our normal selves, and we haven't slowed down as far as what we're doing as a company. We've probably actually grown during this whole pandemic, which is surprising because not many people have unless you're in the healthcare industry. So I think there's definitely room for this world. I think it was the World Rock Bouncing Championship is what it was called. And I've actually got the spreadsheet that Nick sent me. I was working on some special formulas for him. But I really hate that it failed after about the third or fourth race because it really could have gone somewhere. And even if there wasn't any money on the line, or if there wasn't even a trophy, just something cool to say, "Hey, I was the world champion in rock bouncing."
Yeah, absolutely. And I, as a fan, like if I knew that there was either, 2 races in one weekend, I was like, "Oh, so-and-so's not going to this race series, but they're going to this one." So, is someone who may finish third normally over here is going to finish first place over here. Like, how does this all, it became like this added layer of like, it was the underwebbing to bring everybody together. And that was really where I was leading this conversation was, do you ever foresee a future where all of these organizations are meshed into one and we have the MLB of, rock bouncing?
I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, you'd be more talking like an NFL setup where you'd have the north, south, east, and west divisions within a conference. That's a possibility. I just don't see it happening in the next 5 years, say.
Mhm.
A lot of other things need to happen. I mean, you have to have the attention of ESPN or the X Games, et cetera, to really get it on a national level. Right now, it's more of a regional, Midwest, Southern region, I guess you could say. But going back to your world rock bouncing championship, somebody that would normally finish first over here is not here, but the third place guy now finishes first. Well, what was interesting about the way Nick had his point structure is if there was 20 racers at an event and you won that event, you would get 20 points. Well, this other event where the guy did not show up to and normally finishes third had 40 racers. Well, instead of finishing third, he finished first. Well, he now has 40 points for that event, and the other guy only got 20 for his event. So you'd really have to look, if there were stacked weekends, and we're doing all we can not to stack weekends on any other series because there's only so many weekends in a year, and I think right now we're okay as far as not having any stacked weekends. But if you do have stacked weekends, you really have to look and say, okay, there's more racers here. This is where I need to go if we're going after the world championship. And I think, we averaged 35 bouncers last year per race, which was a lot. And we're not going to be surprised if we see over 40 this season.
Yeah, that's huge. That's it's like 35 doesn't sound like a huge number until you put it into perspective of like, there's 35 machines out there. There's 35, trucks and trailers and the whole setup and the whole shebangs. 35 racers fills up a park partially, and then
Yes, it does.
So that's pretty interesting. I enjoy hearing that you guys have big numbers and that you're looking to have even bigger numbers this year. So let me ask you this though. One more thing before we move on from the United Rock Bouncing League. Do you think that it would garner the national attention quick or more quickly if all of the leagues on their own formed this rather than relying on like a network or something like that to build it out, or where you could, or the 4 or 5 chairmen could walk to their network and say, hey, we have this to bring to the table as one unified group?
I'm not going to say it's impossible. I mean, it's definitely possible. You just have to have that sit-down meeting with the different heads, right, of the different series saying, hey, this is what we want to do. And that's kind of what Jason at Mid-America Outdoors is doing. He's about the series. It's about the racers, and that's what it's really about. So we're really looking forward to going up and helping out with that event this coming July, because it's, put all the egos aside, put your series stuff away, because you are now Visions Off-Road is what you are. You're not NRRA, you're not Pro Rock, you're not Point1, you're Visions Off-Road is what you are.
Yeah. And so you actually cut out just a little bit there, but for those listening, he mentioned the Visions race week that's happening it's happening in June. Is that correct?
July 16th to the 25th.
Okay. July 16th to the 25th. And that's going to be a big one. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if, a couple iterations of Visions happen and we start to see some unifying force like Visions itself, where everyone does come, even if it's one time a year. And we build this case for Visions, and we take Visions to ESPN and say, hey, just cover one race a year. Because right now CBS Sports covers King of the Hammers, and they do an entire race series on just King of the Hammers. And to be honest, I'm sure they do some small coverage of the rest of the Ultra 4 series, but they don't care about the rest of it. Essentially we're building out, or I'm not going to say we, because I'm not including myself here, but what's being built out is a King of the Hammers of the East Coast Midwest. And I think that something very, very cool is going to happen here. I'm very excited.
Oh, it definitely will. Because Dave Cole with Ultra 4 is actually involved with Visions.
Right.
So It may happen sooner than I think. I'm just trying to be realistic here and saying it's probably going to be 5 years or so out before we really get to that level. Would I love to see this on ESPN or NBC or CBS, Fox Sports? Heck yes, I would. I just don't know if it's there yet, but I think we're definitely working that direction, right? I mean, we have between the 3 or 4 or 5 different series, there's more races in a season than there are NFL games. I mean, the NFL season's what, 16 weeks or 17 or 16 regular season games, and then you have your 3 postseason games. So you're talking 19. We're probably pushing 20. Oh, we're probably pushing 25, 26 races in a season, excluding Visions, excluding King of the Hammers and Ultra 4, because I'm just talking rock bouncing. You're in that 25, 26 races a season already. I mean, that's half the year.
So let me ask you this. You said realistically we're a little bit away from that. What do you think it would take for us to realistically make that gap where we were ready to take it to that level? What's missing? What's left to do?
I think what's really missing there is the bigger, and don't take this the wrong way, but the bigger marketing partners, the Coca-Colas, the PepsiCo, the Pampers diapers, whatever. It's going to take those huge national companies to step on board and become a marketing partner with several of these series. And then they say, hey, what is this? We need to go see what this is over here, happening in Missouri or Tennessee or Kentucky. And I think that's what it's going to take. It's just 1 or 2 of those huge marketing partners coming on board with 1 or 2 of the series. And then you'll really start getting some more national attention, because they're going to do what? They're going to cross promote for you. Next thing you know, you're going to see a Budweiser commercial that has Point1 Off Road Racing. You've got Timmy Cameron blasting up a hill. Well, the guys out in Utah that aren't familiar with this, and the guys in North and South Dakota that aren't familiar with this, they're saying, hey, what is this sport? I need to learn about this. How many people in New York know about this? Not many. How many people in Arizona, it's a rock crawling capital out there. So, but rock crawling and rock racing are 2 totally different sports. And what we do is nowhere near what Ultra 4 is doing, right? So rock racing as a whole is out there and starting to get that national attention. We just need the rock bouncing scene to get that national attention by one of those huge marketing partners. And don't take it from a lack of trying. I mean, I'm definitely trying every avenue I can.
Yeah, I don't think so. And also, I don't take any offense to the marketing thing. I feel like I was on the phone actually today with one of the sponsors of my show, and I told him, I was like, man, sometimes I feel like I have imposter syndrome, because I'm a guy who, interviews all these guys and is at heart just a fan, getting to talk to the people that make the sausage and make the bacon and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's nice to know that there's other people listening, because the show is growing huge. But yeah, every single day, I do not at all consider myself a part of the machine, I guess you would say.
Well, I mean, technically you are. I mean, you're no different than D-Pats or Mad Ram 11 or Busted Knuckle or High Octane Films or even Eagle Eye. I mean, every one of you guys that's in the media, we call them media partners. Y'all all have your own place in the market, and without y'all, rock racing wouldn't be known to what it is, right? I mean, y'all have really taken this and exploded it, and mostly credit given to Cole Shirley and Matt Myrick. I mean, those guys took the rock racing, rock bouncing scene and just, they blew it up, right? And then here comes everybody else. And don't get me wrong, I love every one of our media guys. Bub Meadows, I think you know who Bub is. He lives out there in Tennessee. He messaged me when he saw the Point1 logo. He's like, man, what's going on here? I said, just be patient, and he committed to me to come to our entire season this year, which is awesome. He's going to be co-dogging with Bebo, and he's going to be riding with him to the races, save him a little bit of money, each of them a little bit of money on fuel, and it'll be cool to get another photographer out there. One of our marketing partners, it's a team of guys, and Steve Summers is going to come down and shoot photography at our first race in Illinois. So it'll be cool to get different photographers out there that haven't been to, that's not necessarily a race, but to one of our races, and see how we do things slightly different from the other series.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this too. I was also on the phone today talking about this, that especially the media guys, we all rise and fall together. I know that if I'm not mistaken, it's the Total Off Road podcast. They partner with you guys, and I actually listened to the episode that you were on here recently just to kind of get an idea of what people were asking you, because I don't want these interviews just to be another iteration of the same information. I always
Right.
like to have something a little bit different. And I enjoyed it because back when I used to have a much longer commute, because right now my commute is about 30 seconds from the top of my stairs to the bottom. But when I had a longer commute, I used to really like morning radio. And when I was listening to the episode you guys did, it's so funny because I can tell that you guys all like spend time together and you guys know each other, because it's like morning radio with like three goofs, man. It was fun to listen to. I had a good time, and you guys are cracking jokes at each other. I thought it was really great. So I really like how everyone has a little bit of a different thing going on, and even in the video sector, Mad Ram he covers his son who's starting to do dirt bike racing. Matt Myrick does the Trail Ride Revolution. High Octane is doing his own trail ride and stuff. I think that it's really cool how everyone has their own different flavor. And I had a conversation again with someone the other day, and I was like, there is so much time during the day to consume all of the content that you want. And if someone doesn't fit your need, that's okay, because we all can eat, we all can find our place. And I think it's really great to have a mentality of everyone rises together, rather than pointing fingers and shooting guns at everybody else. That's not conducive to growth. So I think that it's really unique, because I've experienced that in the community, and just hearing the positive feedback that you just mentioned there about all the media guys. I know that everybody, you guys, racers, media, everyone just puts so much time into this. So it is nice whenever your favorite media outlet, send them a message. Your favorite race series, your favorite race guy, send them a message and just say, hey man, thanks for racing, thanks for doing it, because it makes a huge difference. Because I know if someone sends the point one group, says, hey, I'm so excited about the race season, that just gives you guys a little bit more fuel to get it going again.
Oh yeah, it definitely gets us pumped up, and and not to leave any of the media partners out, but if you talk about working together and etc. Look at Jonathan Wright with Black Dog and Dylan Patton with D-Pats. I mean, they worked together at most of our races because we run excuse me, two hills. They can't shoot both hills at the same time, so
Yeah.
Jonathan's on one hill, Dylan's on the other hill, and they're both shooting. Last season, I ended up grabbing a camera and filming for Charles
Yeah.
at one or two races. I filmed at Bridgeport this year for Charles. Just anything I can do to help spread the word. Granted, now I don't have the free time because I'm busy running my mouth all day at different racers and telling people to get back.
Yeah.
But I'm always wanting to try to help grow this sport and get it to that national level that it needs to get to. I'm not saying that I'm the guy for it, but I'm definitely not going to quit. I'm going to keep trying. We were talking today in our family chat, the Point1 family chat is, I brought a couple of new marketing partners on board today, and one of the guys said, how are you doing this? I said, it's easy. Just don't take no for an answer. Make them want to partner up with you. And I mean, we've been very blessed with a lot of the marketing partners we've gotten on board for 2021, and we're not stopping. I mean, we're going to keep pushing on until probably mid-January, and we're going to get as many as we can to help grow this sport outside of your normal people, right? I mean, we have several new ones that have not sponsored anybody in the past. I mean, we have a gas can company. It's not necessarily a racing gas can. It's Fuel Works. I don't know if you're familiar with Tim and Fuel Works. He's got the fastest flowing gas can on the market. But I hit him up and I was like, hey man, I need you to sponsor us. I want you to become a marketing partner for 2021. And he said, well, work me up a package. We worked something up, shot it to him. He's like, yeah, I can do that. So I won't take no for an answer. I'm going to make them realize it's a good idea to get on board with us, because we're going to help grow your product and help grow the sport.
Yeah. And it's awesome too that you're the voice, because I always give Miles Hasselquist with Ultra 4 his, like, I just recently interviewed him, And I tell everyone this: if there's anybody that as an announcer, commentator, podcaster, whatever, if you want to provide value to your sponsors, look at that guy, because that guy, I couldn't tell you who came in third or fourth place at a race, but I can tell you, you have the King Shock Rock section, you have the Progressive Insurance kicker or something like that. I know all of the sponsors, and it's so amazing how you can, as a racer, just little subtle things you can do to promote your sponsors, things like that. It's just amazing how you can become such an asset. You don't even have to win. It's just by saying, if you go up, you blow your motor up into a million pieces on a hill, you come back, you get with someone who does media, and you say, hey, had a terrible race. I would have had it pinned at 14,000 RPM, and the motor blew into 14 million different pieces. Had a great time, and I know that my Radflow shocks are still going to be good the next day. Like, if you can do that, you'll get sponsors. You're providing value. One of the goals of the podcast is lifting the veil of how to get help and not be afraid to ask for help in a variety of different ways, because there's a lot of guys out there that sell their soul to do this because they love it, and I want to help those people, and if I can share information on how to help them, that's my goal. So I appreciate you kind of giving your strategy on how to get those things done. I like it.
Oh, no problem, man. And I don't remember. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I have about an hour drive to work and an hour drive home every day. And I don't remember if it was yours or if it was Trip Nichols. Oh, man, I don't forget the name of his show. But
Talent Tank.
Yeah, Talent Tank. And it was, I think it was Miles on the show, but he was like, look, it may have been Pam Hall's interview. I'm not real sure. But basically, drivers, come see me, right? I've got the microphone. I will get your name out there. I will get your sponsors out there in front of the crowd and on our different videos. We need to help grow this sport together. And the only way to do that is by unifying everybody and saying, hey, let's talk. Some drivers, I understand, they're very shy. I'm not going to name who he is, but he's very shy. He doesn't like talking on camera, but ironically, he's been on Nick's show a couple of times. I think he's been on your show a few times. He doesn't like talking on camera. He's a very, very shy guy, but he's got every sponsor you can imagine, right?
Yep.
What about those little guys, the Nick Reichs, the Cody McQuillams, the Orland Mears? They're not as well known as, say, your Timmy Camerons, your Brandon Davis. How do you get your name out there? You get your name out there by sticking your face in a microphone and saying, hey, I'm Orland Mears.
That's right? That's it.
That's how you do it. You get on your show. You get on Nick's show. You get on Total Off-Road Podcast. You get on the Talent Tank. Like I said, I listen to 3 different off-road podcasts. Yours, Total Off-Road Podcast, and the Talent Tank, and then I watch Nick's show almost religiously. Well, that's my entire week of driving to and from work, because most of them are about 2 to 2.5 hours. So some bleed over from Monday into Tuesday and Tuesday into Wednesday, etc. But I'm trying to absorb all the content that I can, because where's that one tidbit of information going to come from that I don't know about, say, Brandon Davis? We're, just different drivers that race our series. I want to learn as much about them without them knowing that I learned it about them, so I can use it against them later on in life.
I like it. And before we go to close out on, the race series details, I wanted to ask you, just looking to 2021, what's got you excited? What do you what gives you that motivation to keep pressing hard?
What gives me the motivation is all of the feedback from not only the racers, but also the fans. When we all made our announcement, I think it was November 18th, it was, that, hey, we're no longer part of the other series. I think it started at 8:15, 8:30 that night, and it didn't stop till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was the feedback from the racers and the fans saying, hey guys, what are y'all going to do? We were going to race with y'all in 2021. What are y'all going to do? We want a place to race. I was only going to race with y'all, etc. And that's what's really fueling all of us right now. We all have a fire lit under us that you just cannot imagine, and we're fired up and ready to go, and we're looking forward to 2021. But I'm going to say that the parks that we're visiting in 2021 has really got me excited. We're going to two new parks that we have never been to. One I don't think has ever had a race there, and it's actually in southern Illinois. It's called Williams Hill Pass.
I saw this.
It's a lot of natural rock section, so it's going to be old school rock racing, but two at a time. That's actually March 20th. It's in Harrisburg, Illinois, so we're all looking forward to it. A lot of them, the Carnage boys live up there, you know, Jed Harper, Jeremy Taylor, I don't think is too far from there, Johnny Gibbs, and I don't think it's too far from Nashville, maybe a few hours or so. So if you're in the area, definitely come by. You know, we'll put you on the media list. We'll get you in. You could at least check out what our racing's all about, and maybe get some interviews while you're there. You just never know.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this too, because one of the things that we mentioned, you know, I reached out to you and I said, save some information for me after all your interviews. Where's finals going to be for this year? Have you guys determined that yet?
If we would have recorded this like 2 days from now, I could probably answer you. That has not been finalized yet. I'm not at liberty to say right now.
Okay.
We don't want to do anything. Nothing's been set in stone. We think we know. Everybody else thinks they know, but we just cannot talk about it at this point. But it will be Labor Day weekend. I do know that for a fact, that it's going to be Labor Day weekend of 2021. I was hoping we would have that solidified by today, you know, with us having to push the show back a week, but we just weren't able to nail that down in the past week or so. But we're supposed to hopefully hear something back tomorrow or Wednesday on that.
Okay, well, perfect. So now, if you don't mind, can you tell me entry fees, when I have to have my entry in by, any special rules or regulation you guys have, and then where drivers can sign up? And I think that'll pretty much cover everything I had for you.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, all of the information can be found on our website. And if Jesse, maybe if you could add this to the YouTube link, is going to be Point1 Racing. So it's very simple. Point1 Racing. And we have different tabs in there. Information tab has all the different rules for the unlimited class, which is the big mouncer, and then the side-by-side class. It has our entry fees, which I'll go ahead and say that to race the unlimited class is $200, and to race the side-by-side class is $150, and that's per race. So with 4 races, you're talking $800 and $600, relatively cheap entertainment to go out there and thrash on your rig and have some fun. Standard safety rules apply: helmet, Hans, fire suit. One thing that sets us a little bit different from the other series is the other series will allow wrist restraints. We require window nets. And if you look on our website, it tells you specifically how we want you to have that window net mounted. It needs to be mounted with window bars, not tie wraps or Velcro or anything like that. And it needs to be mounted on the inside of the cage. So anybody that's interested in racing with us, shoot myself a PM on Facebook or shoot us a message through our website, and make sure that you're going to be legal to race, because I'd hate for you to pay the $200 or the $150 and you're missing a window net because you're a single seater and your arms can reach out both sides of the car. So if you're a driver's side, left-hand side of the car, and you cannot reach out the passenger window, you only need one window net. If you sit center seat like Wade Good and Wyatt Wilson and those guys, you need to have a window net on both sides. We're very strict about that. Make sure your equipment is in good working order and it's in date. If you show up with high waders on, as far as a fire suit, and it's coming up halfway past your calf, we're going to say something to you and say, hey, you need to get you a different fire suit, because we're not doing it for us. We're doing it for you. I mean, could you imagine what it would feel like with legs, your burns halfway up your leg? You'd be miserable for months. So we're doing that to protect the drivers. And I think you're muted and you're trying to say something. There you go.
No, I was just saying that would be awful. I'm sorry.
Yes, and we had an incident this year where, not necessarily an incident, but a rig caught on fire. I think he blew a hole in the side of his block, which means oil got on the exhaust, which was a flash up fire, right? And had he not had a firewall, had he not had a properly fitting fire suit, he'd have had burns down his leg. So we're doing this to protect the drivers because we are all about safety. We want to keep our drivers safe where they can come back and race the next weekend. Because we know, again, a lot of them race multiple series, and we'd hate for something at our series to knock them out from something else. Which is a neat little thing that we're doing for 2021 is we're going to have teams. So say there's a team of myself and you, and we're both racing as a team. So I can make the first 2 races, but something comes up, I get sick, I break my leg, whatever, and I can't make the 3rd race. Well, you, Jesse, can fill in for me as part of my team and drive your own car for that one event. So
Cool.
you can run, the way it works is you can have one driver run all 4 races. You can have one driver run 1, the other driver run 3 or 2 and 2. It doesn't matter. It's just you cannot be racing for my points and racing for your points at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we started that because a driver got injured in another series, and this year, or excuse me, in 2020, he got injured in another series, and his son ended up having to drive for him. Well, one race is cool. That second race, he was losing points, and I think he was in top 10 before that happened. So we're trying to make sure that we're across the board fair to everybody, because you can't change rules halfway during a race season. That's going to create so many different issues, and you cannot change the way something's doing from the start of the race to the middle of the race to the end of the race. It's got to be the same from the start to the end.
Yeah, understood. So that's pretty much all I had for you, as my dog goes crazy in the background. I think Amazon is here. But that's pretty much all I had for you. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
I just kind of quickly, run over our schedule and maybe drop a couple of our new marketing partners that came on board, in the last 6 or 7 hours. But our schedule is March 20th, Williams Hill Pass up in Harrisburg, Illinois. After that, June 5th, we're going to be in Moorhead, Kentucky. I've never been to this park, up at Dirt Nasty. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's relatively close to you as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got 2 relatively close to you. And then our 3rd race is at Hooter Holler Off Road, which is in Mountain Grove, Missouri. We raced there this 2020 season, had a really good turnout down there. And even though it kind of rained the night or the morning of, it turned out beautiful about 10 o'clock, an hour before race time. And we're looking forward to going back there, and hopefully it'll be dry this time. Finals will be Labor Day weekend, September 3rd through the 5th. Again, location to be determined. I know we keep saying that, but hopefully this week we'll have that nailed down. And then we, as a family, we are all headed to Mid-America Outdoors July 16th to the 25th for the Visions Off-Road event. And we're not there as promoters. We're there helping Jason and Christina and Jared and the entire Mid-America staff, whether they need us scrubbing toilets or serving beer. We're going to be there to do whatever they need. If they need us, to show racers where they're supposed to park their rigs at, et cetera, we're going to be there for them. That's what we're trying to do. And again, it's Mid-America's 5.5 hours from me. So if there's a race there, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be there, just because it's so close and I love the park. I'm this close to getting me a permanent RV spot up there.
Wow.
I'm on the cusp of saying, hey, just here's my credit card, run me for the entire year, and I can just show up. Or even my wife had mentioned buying a house in Jay, Oklahoma, just so we can have a place close. So, I mean, we really, really do like this park, and the amount of effort that Jason is putting into this sport and the park, and the amount of revenue he's putting back into his hometown of Jay, Oklahoma, is just phenomenal. I mean, what he does for that community is just beyond anything you could ever imagine. And if you've never been, got to get to, you probably need to come to the Visions race this year. It's 8 days. You don't have to be there the whole 8 days, but I mean, you're going to have rock bouncing, hill killing, rock bouncing knockout, same for UTV, short course endurance, 4,400 endurance, mega trucks, monster trucks, enduro. I mean, it's anything and everything off-road that you can imagine they're going to have there. I mean, Dennis Anderson was out tooling around out there a few weeks ago. So it tells you it's going to be epic if you've got Dennis Anderson out there checking things out.
Yeah, and just between you and I, because there's nobody else here, I might be there. It's a very high possibility that I might be there. So we'll see how that works out.
Well, there's a
I
high
may not be there for the
possibility.
whole time. Yeah, I may not be there.
I'm planning on being there for probably 9 or 10 days. My
Mhm.
job, obviously, I can work remote. So can you. My wife works for the same company. She can work remote, and that's actually going to be crunch time for her. So she'll be held up in the camper or somewhere in the dealership or somewhere on the park property, just turning out invoices. So we're going to be there the entire 9-10 days. Whether we're in the camper working or we're out there on the hillside helping, doing whatever we got to do, we will be there, the entire Point1 crew. And, you had talked about Total Off-Road Podcast, Ian. Well, Ian is part of Total Off-Road Podcast. I just want to make sure we could clarify that.
Yeah.
So he's the one that's going to be running our starting line, and he's actually coming down from Illinois for the entire event as well.
Man, that's awesome. So it is possible that I will be out there and see you guys and finally get to meet the whole crew in person. And if I don't get a chance to make it to a race before then. So Shelby, that's pretty much all I had for you, though. Is there anything else we missed?
Just want to drop a couple of our marketing partners that came on board today.
Please,
like we talked about. Danny Kelso, Mr. Dano's Cages. Me and him have kind of been working back and forth, and we finally, solidified that deal today. So he's coming on as a marketing partner for 2021. He's actually going to donate a two-seat razor cage for our raffle at the end of the season. So technically, you can win a cage for $1 raffle ticket.
Wow.
Years past, we've given away a set of 43 SX stickies. This year, we're going to have a turbo 400 transmission. Fritz Performance Transmission just told us last night that he's back on board for 2021. And then Nick Barna up in Wisconsin with ball joint eliminators. He's coming on board for 2021. He makes the eliminator that eliminates the upper ball joint on your F250, 350, 450, 550 knuckles and makes them a hell of a lot stronger. So yeah, it's really exciting to get these two new guys on board. I've got a list of about 15 or 16 other marketing partners. We're going to be making different social media posts for them throughout the next few weeks. If you really pay attention, you can kind of see who we've got because we're constantly sharing their post, just doing whatever we can to help support their business and grow their business as much as we can.
Absolutely. We all rise and fall together. And I have no doubt that that's a great investment on their end. So where can people follow the race series on social media, and where can people follow yourself on social media?
On social media, you can find the series at Point1 Off Road Racing, and that's 2 words for off-road. It's again Point1, the word and the number are together. On Instagram, that was on Facebook, excuse me. On Instagram, it's just Point1 Off Road. On the IG, myself, I don't even know what my IG handle is. I think it's SS StClaire. I rarely use it because I'm always on the Point1 page. And then, of course, myself on Facebook, Shelby Scott StClaire. You can find me. My account's 99% of the stuff I post is public. Again, we're about transparency. A lot of times I'll post something that's just for me, or it's a rant fest about a family issue, and then I'll go in there and turn it off where nobody can see it. I just had to get it out there off my chest, and I accidentally posted it public. So 30 minutes after people start commenting, I'm like, let me go edit that privacy real quick, and I'll just make it myself, just kind of as a bad reminder of, hey, don't do that again type deal.
Sure.
But my life's an open book, man. Anything anybody wants to know, feel free to ask myself. Again, Kevin Taylor's the series president. He has pretty much turned 90% of the workload over to myself and Ian, and we're glad for that because it kind of gives him a chance to breathe because he was holding the brunt of the load for the last 4 seasons.
Yikes. Well, I'm glad he has you. It sounds like he's in good hands.
We try to hold his hand just about right. Again, these guys are all family. Like last week, I don't know if you saw, we actually gave Heath Day and surprised him with a kayak for Christmas.
I did see that.
He had made this post, and I'd always wanted to do something special for Heath. And before Kevin could just go online and buy it for Heath, I'm out there raising funds for it because I wasn't about to shell out $1,500 for a kayak. And Kevin's messaging was like, hurry up, let's get this deal done. I mean, I think it was 2 hours. We had most of the money to get it done. So again, we're a family. We try to take care of each other, and we will fight you tooth and nail to the end to protect our family.
Gotcha. Well, Shelby from Point1 Off Road Racing, thanks for being on the show today, brother. We'll close it out here. Stay on the line with me. Everybody, thank you for listening. Shelby from Point1 Off Road Racing.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good day.